The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, a 12th straight night of U.S. strikes against Iran has now wrapped up. And in the last little bit, the parliament speaker there in Iran has said that the Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war conditions. That's a very big deal, saying it'll never be normal again. And if there's an absence of U.S. troops, even more so, it won't go to pre-war conditions. It's never going to be the same. We're taking control of it, and too bad. So this is really getting heated when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. You just heard what Robert from Philly said before the break. I actually thought it was a great idea. He talked about first the U.S. taking Karg Island. Of course, that's where all the oil exports come out of, a huge portion of their exports. They make about $400 million a day on these oil exports. I would say cutting that off would be very significant. Bounties on the IRGC, go for it. And also arming the dissident group. So the Iranian individuals can take it back themselves. So they can take back their country. That would be great. And in the meantime, the Democrats, all they're doing is undermining President Trump at every single turn. The Democrats are taking swipes at President Trump. They're saying, oh, he's losing the war. How is that helping America at a time where you're trying to take out a ruthless terrorist? What do they want to hear from somebody like Biden? Remember Biden? He said to Russia, don't. And then they came in. He said, don't to the Taliban. And the Taliban didn't listen to him. Nobody was listening to him. He looked ridiculous. All I can say is don't. And nobody cared. He looked so wimpy. He didn't even know what room he was in. And now here you have a president who truly is a leader, and they're trying to undermine him, it seems, at every single turn. And then I wanted to play this from the hearing that took place this week. This was a remarkable moment. Gary Peters, who is leaving the Senate, he's a Democrat there in Michigan, and he went off on Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. Boy, did they go back and forth. Hegseth was testifying about the cost of the war, said, listen, we need more. This is a historic moment. We need your support, Congress. And all you could hear was grandstanding from the Democrats like Gary Peters. Listen to this.
You talk about the destruction of missiles, and yet the missiles that we saw hit recent targets are actually somehow more lethal, more deadly, more maneuverable than what we have seen in the past. So they're obviously improving their munitions. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, reminding everybody it was open before the war. Prices were lower for everybody until the war, and it still remains closed. And of course, tragically, people, service members, our war fighters who we care deeply about, are still dying. So what's different? Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth.
I think your characterization of this incredible effort as a failure is reckless. And I think it's irresponsible. And I think it smears the sacrifice of the troops that are out there making on behalf of the American people to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. Shame on you and others who call this a quagmire and a failure, and then you want to turn around and say you support the warfighter. Either you do or you don't.
Is the nuclear material still there,
I
sir?
can get you a ticket out to CENTCOM and talk to what those Americans are doing, and how committed they are to this effort, and how they want to ensure that Iran never threatens their families with a nuclear weapon. That's the kind of intensity that our warfighters have about making sure that Iran isn't capable of doing that.
Secretary Hegseth, if you listen to my comments, you would have heard me say how amazing our warfighters are.
I heard failure. I heard exactly what you said.
I will tell you how I use the word failure, because I use the word failure to their leaders. You, sir, are the failure, not the men and women who are on that front line, not the men and women who hold up their honor with distinction. But if there's a lack of a winning strategy, they're in harm's way. Their leaders have failed them. And that's what's happening. We have political leadership. You don't have a strategy. You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. Win the war. The men and women are going to be able to do it, but they need to have leadership. When will you show leadership? When will you show leadership?
Why don't you show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops, who stand and play partisan politics while you don't give us the money? You want to stand up here and talk about the troops? You won't show any political courage to actually fund our department because you have Trump derangement syndrome and can't actually commit to anything meaningful. So I put this on you, Senator.
Secretary Hegseth, you have trillions, you have over $1 trillion. You're asking for $1.5 trillion. It's not a question of money. It's a question of leadership and understanding what it takes to actually win.
Political cowardice of Democrats who won't fund the troops.
Wow. So much for those boring hearings. I remember when I was in Washington, it was like, boring. It was like this, pro forma. Gone are those days. Everything has become so highly partisan. And it's such a shame. As opposed to saying, hey, we're wishing the best for you. This is incredible success. It's more than Obama and Joe Biden and many others combined ever even thought about doing. Thank God for President Trump for having the courage. No, everything is, if it's tied to Trump, it's Trump derangement syndrome. And then, not to be outdone, Chris Van Hollen started going after Pete Hegseth. Now, Chris Van Hollen's the guy who had the margaritas. Remember, with the Father of the Year, Kilmer Abrego Garcia, the guy who ended up in the El Salvador prison, who was accused of human trafficking. Remember that lovely person? Well, then he started going after Pete Hegseth, and Pete Hegseth responded like this. Take a look.
By that, back in March.
Well, Senator, I would just note that militarily, Iran has been completely overmatched and crushed from the beginning. Militarily, their capabilities are nowhere near ours. I would take issue with your characterization that we started this war. Iran started this war 47 years ago, and they've killed thousands of Americans, including our brothers on the battlefield in Iraq. Iran has been targeting us for a long time.
Mr. Secretary,
we didn't start.
Let me just ask you this, since you said that what the president meant by his statement on March 24th.
Let me just kind of go back to you. Let me just try to figure this out. Questioning his leadership, questioning funds. It really got downhill even from there. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Larry in Brooklyn on line 2. Go ahead, Larry. Your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, Rita, I want to thank your astute call screener for sharpening the question that I was trying to raise. Wait.
Does he deserve a raise? That's a very important question, Larry. I'm looking right at him. I'm not really sure, but what do you think, Larry?
Well, I think if the city council if the state assembly deserves a raise, it's a slam dunk on your call screener.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I think you're right. I don't know why they got a raise. Maybe they should take their raise and give it to him, and then give him a raise.
All right, because they're a bunch of morons.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that.
Anyway, and the question he clarified was, what is Trump afraid of? Because clearly we see that Trump is fighting with Netanyahu, and it would never come out exactly what it is, and it's obvious what it is. It's Netanyahu kicked the Palestinians' ass, and that's what Mamdani can't stand. He's a strong leader, and Trump is afraid of something. What's to be afraid of to wipe out these IRGC guys? They're murderers. They shot into crowds. They're cowardly murderers.
So wait. Why? You actually think Trump's afraid? Okay, you kind of buried that line. Come on.
Let me tell you why. Okay, you're going to use the word doozy. I know, but let me tell you why. Because
not right away, but go ahead.
Okay. So far, Trump has gotten death threats. He's gotten assassination attempts. But the one thing he hasn't gotten yet, which is the most fearsome of all to issue from the Muslim world, and that is a fatwa. That's what Salman Rushdie had, and they got him. Okay? A fatwa means any crazy person from any part of the world who's Muslim could come and take a shot at you. That's what they didn't do yet. They didn't issue a fatwa against Trump, believe it or not. Now, he's afraid that if he goes like a strong man determined, they'll find him that he's infringing on Islam. once you infringe on Islam, you're liable for a fatwa. So he's watching his P's and Q's. There's no doubt about it. He's looking like a dumbfounded buffoon, and I think he's doing it on purpose because he doesn't want them to take him seriously.
Larry,
Larry,
Larry, this is nonsense. First off, the fatwa, obviously, we're all aware of what happened with Salman Rushdie, and you're right, the threat that was put against him. That has nothing to do with what's happening to President Trump right now. He has so many threats coming at him from Iran in every different direction, and others, and friends of Iran from different directions. So he probably has a fatwa on steroids right now. But separate than that, you can't honestly think that he's scared of something. I don't believe he is scared. I believe he is truly a guy who would like to see peace, who at all costs would have loved to have seen them come to the table. I'm sure that he's gotten a better taste of them now than he did at the beginning, because I think at the beginning he was optimistic that somehow they could come to the table, and they probably presented as such and had actions as such, and maybe thought, okay, we've wiped out so many of these leaders. Maybe the third or fourth tier are not as much of a bunch of lunatics. And I appreciate him trying, because I don't want someone who is bomb, without sort of a plan for the future. His plan is to have dramatic change and leave. And the only way you can do that is if you have a new set of leadership in there. So, I actually think he was trying to be measured, but also come with strength. And that's already a far cry from anything we have seen from any other American president when it's come to Iran, especially in modern times, Larry. So I don't think he's afraid of anything. I think he keeps trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but he also likes the element of surprise, because they didn't think that he was going to come in and attack those plants. Remember last June? I don't even think they thought this latest round that happened that he would go and start pounding. And now it's been 12 straight nights. So I think he likes the element of surprise. He clearly is having military assets moving theater. So while he's saying, I'll have you, I'll come to the table. If you have a real offer, I'm always willing to hear. But if you don't, see ya. And I think he's at that sort of see ya point, unless they can show something that's real tangible. And that's not fear. I don't know why you think he's afraid of something, Larry. You can't be serious.
Well, let me just say one thing in conclusion. The Iranian people, I don't know how many of them are alive that are not in the IRGC's base yet, as of this point.
By the way, and I'll give you an answer. Hold on, I'll give you an answer, because we hear different estimates. Sadly, and very different estimates, I should say. There are some people who believe there's tens of thousands. There are some people who believe it's maybe 150,000 that include leadership and lower ranking. The lower ranking maybe could flip once they're not getting paid, once they realize their leaders are gone, but there's quite a bit in the leadership realm.
All right, but I'm referring to mainly the civilian population. They have spoken.
That's not IRGC, Larry. Larry, you brought up.
I meant that support the civilians that support the regime. That's what I meant. How many civilians are left that do not support the regime? That's what I'm talking about.
There's a huge portion.
Still a lot.
There's a huge amount. I would say 80 to 90% of the population does not support the regime. That's a big amount.
Right, and those are the ones that are not coming out. They're afraid to come out. They stay in their houses.
Yep.
So we don't get the impression that there's any kind of opposition. But those people have spoken very loudly and especially at the beginning. They said they don't care. They like to hear the bombs, and they will not care if bridges are taken out or if infrastructure is taken out. They want to see Trump come in. They don't care if the country's blown up. And Trump is talking about, I don't want to disable. I don't want to cripple them. They want them to be crippled. These are the people that are in siege. So what is Trump afraid of? We're back to the beginning.
Well, you're back to the beginning because he is not afraid, I don't think. And I know he's not. I just think he is smart and he's measured. And you're not the president of the United States, nor am I, but there are so many factors that are involved and so many coordination steps. you know darn well right now that they're coordinating, I'm sure, in touch with Israel and also the Arab countries. There's a lot of things, and you got to get your assets in theater. You, again, want it to be a surprise. The best kind of attack is when your enemy thinks, oh, they're not going to do it. And they think like you might, oh, he's not going to do it. And then the next thing, ka-ching. And that's what happened last June. Remember, he hit 3 of those nuclear sites. And so I think some big stuff is coming. I think you completely misunderstand and underestimate him. And I think the world will be pleasantly surprised. But Larry, I like what you're saying about getting those people to rise up and getting them armed, most importantly, because they can't rise up if right now when the guns still are in the hands of the IRGC. But they do need to be better supported, better backed. And you're right. They did come out and say, the bombs show that the U.S. is involved. So I think President Trump has certainly heard that part loud and clear. We'll see what happens, Larry. I think the next week or two, we're going to see a lot of action. And you won't see a lot of chicken, Larry, that's for sure. Thank you, Larry. Always interesting. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue right after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And I'm still thinking about Jack Smith hit with a criminal referral. The former special counsel, the one who's doing all the investigations of Donald Trump. And there are a number of members of Congress, including those on the House Judiciary Committee, who believe he may have lied under oath. It doesn't get any more incredible when you're talking about the special counsel investigating the president potentially lying under oath. Wow. Let's go to Tony in Clifton, line 2 real quick. Tony, go ahead.
Hi. When we think of Gary Peters, Rita, if you remember, he was the one that we talked about when we looked at all the pseudonym email names for Joe Biden. Remember, like 5,000 of them, all these weird email accounts he had?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I remember that. It wasn't exact. We never really heard what the outcome of it was. But Gary Peters was chairing many committees in addition to appropriations, Homeland Security. And I think Pete Hegseth, needs to remind the public that these are the people who are in charge.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Tony, hold on. We'll continue after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And let's go back to Tony in Clifton. Tony, sorry I had to cut you off. We had a hard break there, but go ahead.
Well, Gary Peters is a senator who very strangely, not that old, is thinking of retiring. They usually stay in there until they drop dead in their seats. He's thinking of retiring, but he's in Michigan, which is a hot place for our country right now, in many ways. I don't want to go into it, but one of the emails that he was in charge of Homeland Security, Rita. He was endorsed by Joe Biden for Senate in Michigan, by Joe Biden and Barack Obama. You see, all these people who are on these committees have all these ties, and when they come up at committee hearings, they have nothing really credible to say about what's going on.
But Tony, why do you think he's retiring then? You think there's some story behind it?
I don't know what the story is, but I know he's a guy that, if you remember, when he was in charge of Homeland Security during Joe Biden's time, look what was happening to our country. He was named in those. His last name was
Peters,
one of the
right. It was like Robert Peters. I remember you and I talking a lot about that during all that, Tony. It was like, I remember it. So that's why I'm laughing at memory lane.
Right. We never really heard the outcome, and maybe some things are best left undone, those pseudonyms, because we know Joe Biden liked, the electronic pen. He really didn't sign anything. He was like a zombie for 4 years.
Yeah, the auto pen.
The auto pen. He had the pseudonyms, emails, and the auto pens. The pseudonym emails were when he was vice president, and he was communicating with his son.
I was going to say with Hunter. Now, what's interesting? You bring up a good point about Gary Peters. Like, why is he leaving? And he's making it an open seat. And by the way, Tony, hold on, because I want to play this because you bring up Gary Peters, and it's interesting because that's the Senate seat. That's a very, very key seat also. It's very pivotal right now for the Republicans, because if they can flip that seat, Gary Peters, of course, is a Democrat, but if Republicans, and it would be Mike Rogers, he is the GOP candidate there, Trump endorsed, doesn't have a primary. Next week there is a primary on the Democratic side. In 2 weeks there is on the Democratic side. And it's with that crazy guy, Abdul al-Sayed, who's Hassan Piker's buddy. That guy who was making basically apologies, it seems, for the Ayatollah. Lovely guy. Well, earlier today, and this is why I wanted to play this, Mike Rogers was in studio with us. Congressman Mike Rogers, great guy, former FBI special agent. He was House Intel Committee, congressman for a long time. Army veteran. This is the kind of guy you want in office. This guy is amazing. And he is, of course, the GOP nominee. He's the guy who I hope becomes senator of Michigan. But take a listen, because we asked him when he was in studio, Tony, about what he's facing, because he doesn't know if he's going to be facing crazy Abdul al-Sayed or somebody a little less crazy. But it's crazy or a little less crazy seems to be the competition that's going to go up against him. Take a listen.
We have what they're claiming to be the mini Mandami running in Michigan, who has all the bad ideas that certainly Mandami has here. And I would argue some worse.
Is that mini-me?
It was like the mini-me, you bet. And again, they're all on that crazy train that you played.
Tell everybody about what's at stake, because the Abdul al-Sayed, we've talked about him on the show. This is a guy who's been embracing Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11.
The blind sheikh.
Yeah, the blind sheikh, that's the guy in New Jersey. But this guy is equally very troubling. Seems to be praising Hamas.
Apologist for Hamas.
Yeah, and wouldn't condemn. I remember after everything that was going on in the strike against the Ayatollah, said we can't talk about the Ayatollah. That was a big deal. Where he said, I don't want to upset my constituents who might be happy about the Ayatollah and upset that he's passed away. That's a troubling trend.
And one better even, we had a terrorist whose relation, I think he was his either father-in-law or some relation in Lebanon, who was a commander in Hezbollah, was killed in the conflict with Israel. And he lived in Dearborn, Michigan, packed his car with explosives, drove into a synagogue, and it was a day school, was trying to kill 140 Jewish children. And Abdul said, well, you could see how somebody might feel that they to do something like this. And I think that in and of itself is disqualifying.
Totally disqualifying.
Yeah, I would say that first one's disqualifying. Then I would say praising the Ayatollahs right up there. Hanging out with Hassan Piker is right up there. This is what's at stake. And here's a little bit, Tony, before I go back to you. Here's Abdul al-Sayed, who is running. He also wants that seat that Gary Peters is going to leave open. Listen to this.
Who are the people within the community that are sad about the Ayatollah being dead? Because the peaceful Muslims that I know, including those that are in the Gulf state that are supporting this action right now, they reject him and they wanted him dead. So who are those people that you know that are sad, and why?
Well, look, I'm no apologist for any regime, including our own. And at the end of the day, the question is whether or not a leader focuses on his or her people. Clearly, the Ayatollah did not. And clearly, Donald Trump and this administration is not either.
So he's equating Trump with the Ayatollah. That's like what the leader of Iran said to me. Remember when I was sitting across from him that day? It's exactly the same thing. It's this gobbledygook. Oh, no. Just like Mandani saying, well, I can't arrest him, but you guys should. And if there's an ICC arrest warrant, he should be arrested. It's Trump. It's this, it's that. Here's a little bit more of Abdul al-Sayed defending Hassan Piker.
The question to you is, when did we start bending to cancel culture? When did we start saying that cancel culture was okay? Because clearly on your show, you have a number of people who you don't agree with, including me. And I think it's important for all of us who want to win votes, who want to build America, to go and talk to anyone, anywhere.
And we only have limited time, so I don't want to cut you off. But I'm talking about someone standing with the number one state sponsor of terror. I'm talking about condemning the worst attack on America. And if you want to vote in a country where we consider this event brought us to our knees, I'm talking about speaking to moral clarity specifically about that. I'm happy to have you on to talk about the President of the United States any other time, but would you speak to what he said about,
I just think it's
important. Will you speak to what he said about 9/11 and October the 7th?
Well, it's important to talk about context.
By the way, Lawrence, that's Lawrence on Fox News. Bravo, Lawrence. You did a great job. He really did. He grilled Abdul more than I heard anybody grill Mondani, including the moderators, by the way, of the debates. That guy got a free pass before Election Day. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Tony in Clifton. Thank you, Tony, for your patience. You there, Tony? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here.
There you go, honey. Sorry about that.
President Trump is focusing very strongly on his Senate candidates, his governors, because what happened under Biden is all the senators and governors really ruined everything. Now, look at what Gary Peters did. In Michigan, a court ruled recently that agreement that a Muslim couple entered into before they were married would be honored. Michigan is it's a hotbed of trouble. And this is what the president is concentrating on. And when people say he's afraid, no, he's not. He's changing the senators and Republicans because there's a lot of people who are really not, even Republicans who are not doing their job in those seats. We need a new governor in New York. We need a lot of new governors and senators, Rita. And people like Gary Peters ruined Michigan. And he was in the hand, they had him in their hands. They endorsed him, Biden and Obama.
Oh yeah, they embraced him. I mean, like you just said, it wasn't even just an endorsing. They also embraced him. They coddled him. They propped him up. And you could tell how emboldened he felt there with Pete Hegseth. But I'm curious too, sort of like, why is he leaving? Because you're right, it is a little unusual. Because you're right, the Senate is usually where you go all the way till you're 6 feet under. And you're right, he's fairly young to be, and he clearly still has the fight in him, as we heard him against Pete Hegseth the other day. Tony, I'm going to look into that. You always say some great stuff. Thank you very, very much. And we also brought up New York City, Mondani. Of course, Mondani saying now he doesn't think he has the authority to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. He also says he is not welcome in New York. But it's interesting. Why did he flip? Because now he says, but I'm encouraging the feds to do it. And Paul Morrow, who is a great law enforcement guy, he's also an attorney. He was on Fox News today. And this is why he believes that Mondani came out now and said, I don't have the authority to arrest him. Because remember, suddenly he flipped and flopped, and Paul Morrow thinks he knows why.
Now, he's backed off, but the gist of it was that were he to order the NYPD to go out and arrest Netanyahu, knowing that he has no authority to do so, and in fact, if anybody took an overt step towards doing a substantial step, an overt act, you would have a conspiracy to commit kidnapping because there's no legal basis to do it. He knows that, and so he's knowingly conspiring with somebody else to say, go grab somebody illegally and let's recognize something else. He would be, first of all, there's a statute right on point that says relative to heads of state that come here, you can't do this. But furthermore, he has stated, he should be tried in The Hague. So under his theory of what he would do here, as he was doing this performative nonsense that he has to know is not going to fly, he's going to kidnap Netanyahu, and then put him on a plane and send him to The Hague to be prosecuted. There's no universe wherein that's going to fly. He knew it. It's all performative. And I think the tell here is that he knows there's no federal case either. There's no federal standing to do what he's advocating, yet he's doubling down, saying, well, we can't do it. I checked it out, but the feds should do it. He knows that that's not going to happen and can't happen either. He's continuing to lie. It's all performative. He's playing to his base. And all I've got to say, if he's so obsessed with Gaza and his base is so obsessed with Gaza, what are they doing to make Gaza better? Has he gone there? Has he done anything relative to the actual issue?
That's right.
Done nothing but grandstand. It's all performative. Let's just hope this DSA stuff comes and goes, because it's nothing but a drag on the American experience.
I agree. I sadly, I see it coming. I don't see it going, though, at least not in the near future, unfortunately. And, you know, he brought up, what was Mondani going to do, a citizen's arrest? Because you think the NYPD would go after Netanyahu? So maybe he realized he crossed the line. Maybe some legal expert said, you know what? You might get charged with attempted kidnapping. And also the federal authorities, I'm sure, were looking into it. I talked to Professor Alan Dershowitz personally, and he was saying that there could be federal civil rights violations. So maybe he was like, this isn't good. Although, as we were just talking with Tony about Michigan, you can't make it up category, guys. Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman of Michigan. I don't know what's in the water there in Michigan. Please bring in Mike Rogers to clean things up. I'm begging you, America. But Rashida Tlaib, she was asked today in the hallways of Congress, hey, what do you think of Zohran Mamdani? And her answer was, if it's a citizen's arrest, count me in. I mean, you can't make this up. Count me in. So all the squad members seem absolutely happy. So maybe Mamdani and AOC and Rashida Tlaib will all kind of work together and do a citizen's arrest. That is going to be one for the record books. I'm laughing because what a preposterous comment. But they seem still dead set on saying that Netanyahu should be taken into custody, and they hope the federal authorities do that. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go real quick to Stan in Forest Hills on line 5. Go ahead, Stan.
It's very simple. I just want to talk about the prime minister. Do you hear me? Are you hear me okay?
Yep, yeah, I hear you great.
Okay. As you know, in the past, when a government person came into the United States, let's say Yasser Arafat, in other countries he carried a weapon. He was not allowed to carry a weapon here. Idi Amin Dada did the same thing. You know, they tried to come into the country. They didn't allow him with a weapon. Castro, the same thing, wasn't allowed to come here with a weapon. The president of the prime minister and Mossad and the Secret Service should allow the prime minister to carry a weapon here in the United States. I think the president would let him, shoulder whatever, and of course he's protected. He has body protection and so forth. But allow him to carry a weapon, and then make a statement to Mr. Mamdani. You want to come for me? Fine. Make an attempt. Remember what we've done to Hamas and other areas who tried to take, and make that statement to him. And maybe he might back off.
You sound like what? Like he's going to be Clint Eastwood at the OK Corral?
Well, I see nothing wrong with it. If the minister president that says, if you want to carry a weapon here while you're here, that's fine. I mean, normally they don't allow foreign leaders to carry weapons into the States. I mean, again, Yasser Arafat tried to do it. They would not allow him. But if they say, you know, because of the threats, if he's allowed to do it, fine. But I would make a statement if I was the prime minister to the mayor, simply by saying, you've seen what we've done. I say again, to other people who've tried, you know, and keep your mouth shut, run the city, pick the garbage off the street, and shut up. He won't stop. You know that. So,
well, but you know what? You know what, though? In all seriousness,
I'm talking serious.
No,
yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but the Mossad.
Trump would do it. You know that. Trump would do it.
Oh yeah. By the way, and he might. You're right. But the reality is the Mossad is such a great, amazing fighting force, and they're going to be by his side. And you know, I was trying to remember with Arafat, because you're right. He came to the UN. He had a gun. I think they took the gun, but he spoke with the gun holster on his hip. which certainly sent a pretty big message. And that was sometime, I think, in the 1970s. And I think he said that he was bringing like a freedom fighter gun, which I don't think anybody believed him, but it certainly sent a statement. That is for sure. Stan, thank you very much. Always interesting. And everybody, we're going to continue your calls right after the break. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Beeville, Texas, where U.S. Army veteran Sergeant Juan Castillo was recognized and honored during his 77th birthday and given some special gifts. He was also presented with nearly a dozen military decorations he had earned more than 5 decades ago. Now, during the recent ceremony, the senior vice commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars read an official citation about the veteran saying exceptional heroism in connection with ground operations against hostile enemy forces in the Republic of Vietnam. We commend you for your heroism between December 1st, 1969 and October 31st, 1970. Castillo's newly decorations include the Bronze Star Medal, the Purple Heart, the Combat Infantry Badge, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Good Conduct Medal. Now, during the war, by the way, the U.S. Army sergeant served as a light weapons infantryman, and how beautiful to see that he finally got the weapons that he definitely deserved. Very powerful story. And everybody support America's military and also our great first responder heroes. All you have to do to make an incredible difference is give to this great organization, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Donate just $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They are the best at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Thomas in New Jersey, line 4. Go ahead, Thomas.
Hey, God bless you, Rita. Let me say to Mr. I think it was Robert, Donald Trump has more courage in his pinky than people have in their entire body.
Hey, Thomas, by the way, it was Larry from Brooklyn.
Larry, loudmouth Larry. Jimmy Carter, John Kerry, and Hussein Obama caused this a mess. And the other presidents, other than Ronald Reagan, enabled this to happen.
No,
Donald Trump is
I hear what you're saying. I mean, that's why I laughed. I'm with you. Donald Trump has said such unbelievable guts and courage and also patience. And that's a winning combination.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?